Good morning, and gosh, what a beautiful setting here to talk about lakes and water resources of the Peace Creek watershed. We can look out our window right here and see Lake Eva, which...
Mr. Britt, excuse me, would you identify yourself for
Oh,
the record?
yes, sir, excuse me. Mike Britt, City Winter Haven Natural Resources Division Director.
Thank you.
And I know that our city manager and city commissioner are still here with us, along with our department director, T. Michael Staver. So I'm glad they hung around to hear this discussion.
Former Water Management District employee.
Former Water Management District employee, yes, sir, 25 years ago. The quote on the board is one of my new favorite quotes. It's from Secretary Herschel Vineyard, and it's about getting the water right and the role that water and land play in relationship to each other. It's I think, one of the quotes that really is going to guide us into the future and seems to be very consistently used by the DEP office. The City of Winter Haven is involved in an initiative. We've been doing this for about the past 4 years, and we felt like this location and this setting was the perfect time to introduce you to this initiative. It has to do with the Peace Creek watershed area, which is at the very headwaters of the Peace River watershed. This watershed has about 100 lakes, 40 of which are on the impaired waters list, 30 are on the stressed lakes or MFL list. It also represents the highest recharge rates to the Florida aquifer in this area, especially to the part of the SWCA region too. What that means is not only are we at the headwaters of the Peace River system, we're also at the headwaters of the groundwater basin as well too. I think this is just an incredible location to talk about this, because the water that flows off of this facility as it would head towards Lake Eva, but the surface water would flow out of Lake Eva down to Lake Hamilton, down to Peace Creek Canal, down to Peace River. But the water that would percolate in the ground right here in this location would flow to the east over towards the Kissimmee River Basin. So it just tells you how unique the hydrology is of this Lake Wales Ridge area that we're on. I'll just expand on that area a little bit. I want to show you kind of where we are. The dashed line on this very poor graphic is the hydrologic divide. And you can see it passes through the lakes right here. But here's the Peace Creek watershed area. You see the hydrologic divide passes right through the middle. The City of Winter Haven is located right here. That passes through our area too. But we're located right here on the opposite side of the divide, where the groundwater heads to the east. The natural hydrology of this area is a significant factor in the plans that we've been developing. 100% of the water used to recharge in the Sandy Ridge areas, and that water used to accumulate in the lower valley area and slowly flow out of the watershed, kind of like a little mini Everglades system over 100 years ago. So we think that's an important place to start to really evaluate where we are today hydrologically and where we need to head in the future. After 100 years of pretty much developing ditching and draining canals, urbanization that covers over some of our recharge areas, and regional aquifer decline that tends to affect our area more than most other areas, especially in the SWCA region, there's been a long history of impacts to water resources in this area. But what we have on the horizon is even more significant. Here's some of the planned economic growth we have in the watershed. Legoland is here. We're just about 10 miles north of Legoland, so I'm sure y'all might stop by there on your way back. But we have CSX coming in. You might have heard about that as well. Large development being relocated to the south side of Winter Haven. The proposed Polk Parkway that you hear about is going to cut right through the heart of the watershed area. And we also have our downtown inland fiber area that is just really seeing a lot of revitalization. But what I've heard here recently, somebody told me this, so please don't question the reliability of information, but somebody said on a recent Forbes magazine list that we're one of the top economic growth areas in the entire country. It's what I was told, so I haven't verified that. But I can believe it. There's some really excitement about the potential in this watershed area. And you can see one of the things is the watershed area is bounded by, not only concludes Winter Haven, but bounded by all these smaller communities, including Haines City and Lake Wales and Bartow. They're all going to benefit from this. This watershed is going to transition from roughly about 30% development today to probably 60 to 70% development in the next few decades. So it's very unique not only is it unique hydrologically, it's very unique in our growth expectations for the future. So here's two of the main points that are driving our efforts locally. We have significant opportunities today to restore the natural infrastructure of this watershed that could provide so many water resource services to our communities. And many of these opportunities could be lost over the next few decades if we don't make some changes. And here is another very important point. If we follow the past approach that we've used for land and water management over the last few decades, and we carry that forward into the future, that additional impacts to water resources will happen in this watershed. That's pretty much an incredible fact from our standpoint, that we have done things in the past decades or so, even leading up to today, that if we carry that forward in the future, that additional impacts to one of our most important hydrologic areas still could occur in the future. So this to us means that something pretty much has to change for this area. Here's a quote from the Charlotte Howard Benassia Estuary Program, and it talks about how resource management is different than it has been in decades past. It says it's less about water resource managers applying technical knowledge through regulations and enforcement, and more about local communities broadening their knowledge and how they relate to water resource management. It's that whole idea that you can't manage land without managing the water. Well, a lot of the land management, especially for future growth, is managed by local communities. So there's this connection that we're making that really hasn't been made as aggressively in the past. For all these reasons, our City Commission adopted the Sustainable Water Resource Management Plan about a year ago. They have given us authorization to move forward with this effort. We used a couple of guiding principles in how we do this. I thought I'd share a couple of those with you. Within this watershed area, because we're at the top of both the surface watershed and the groundwater basin, that the rainfall that hits the ground is the only water that we have to work with, both for public supply for future growth, those kind of things, as well as water supply for lakes, rivers, streams, and those kind of areas. So we feel like we have to be very persistent about managing our water in a very judicious manner. We also decided that even though this is a Winter Haven initiative, we're adopting this initiative for the whole Peace Creek watershed. We only cover about 25% of the watershed area, but the conclusion that we came to is that we can't manage water resources in Winter Haven without playing an active role in managing water resources for the entire watershed. So it makes sense. We do everything from a water resource management standpoint, not from a political boundary standpoint when it relates to water. And then if you believe Secretary Vineyard's quote, that land and water resources have to be integrated functions. And that means that into the future, especially local governments that have significant growth coming their way, they have to play a role in future decisions related to water resource management, because local governments have the land use planning authority that can make those changes in the future. Here's our vision for the future. This is a map of the Peace Creek watershed showing about 7,800 acres of wetlands being restored. It's a plan that focuses on the use of the natural infrastructure, not necessarily what we have today, but what existed in the past. These are wetlands that have been ditched and drained over the years for historically agriculture purposes or urban growth that we've had in the past. But these are the same lands that are going to transition in the future, more than likely for either urban growth or that need to be protected from an agricultural standpoint. So we anticipate a lot of opportunities opening up in this watershed where we can have opportunities to work together. Here is the number one recommendation for the plan is to restore those wetland areas. This is an idea that is best maybe envisioned if you've ever been to Circle B, the joint effort between the district and the county that used mitigation kind of ideas to restore that area. If you take Circle B and that scale that it's on and you apply that all throughout the Peace Creek watershed area, this is how we want to improve our watershed, improve our communities, further economic growth opportunities, and move forward with restoration at the same time. One of the things we like about this plan is that future growth, as they have to plan for their water resource management activities, stormwater management, flooding, wetlands, all those kind of things, This is our vision of how we can negotiate those activities ahead of time. This is kind of a different concept. We're used for development coming in and negotiating these on a site-by-site basis, but this is an opportunity for us to create a master plan that will negotiate these opportunities for future development. This is a big change in our thought process that we have going on for this effort. The second recommendation is to percolate more stormwater into the ridge areas and take reuse water and reallocate reuse water to create a water budget that more matches hydrologic conditions. This is a purview that's more within the local government realm right now, but this is something else that this is the second half of our plan, is to use the ridge areas for percolating additional water than it does today. Both of these recommendations provide multiple functions. They're intended to improve our economic and our cultural resources we have for the communities. It's intended to create new water frontage for future growth in many areas, or it's intended to allow us to value the storage of land on existing agricultural areas, like they do in the Florida Ranch Lands Program for South Florida Water Management District. They're working with their landowners in a very significant way to create storage opportunities on private lands. And we think that value is something that we could further encourage in the Peace Creek watershed area as well, too. So the second recommendation, to percolate more water in the Sandy Ridge areas, is in a significant way in the purview of local government. We have some control over that kind of resource, but the number one recommendation, to restore the wetlands, needs significant input from the Water Management District. We think that with the right incentives for future growth, with the right attitude towards regional stormwater management systems, with regional wetland mitigation opportunities, that we can encourage future growth while restoring the watershed at the same time. And we think that the unique capabilities of this watershed would allow for that in a way that would be hard to replicate in a lot of the other areas of the Water Management District. So here's how we see that this could be moving forward. We think that if the Water Management District and the local governments in the watershed collectively identify the storage opportunities we have that have been lost in the past, and that we incorporate these storage opportunities into the land use plans of the local governments that surround the watershed, that we think that this would create the impetus for moving forward with a full-scale restoration plan. We think that mitigating for the lost function of future development within the watershed is a significant step. We want to encourage mitigation bankers and people to look at regional stormwater ponds as a private sector operation within this watershed to provide the benefits that we anticipate for the future. So this is very kind of different than, it's targeted restoration using mitigation banking, regional stormwater ponds, those kind of concepts in a way that we really haven't explored fully in the past. So this is very much different than what we do today. We think that creating those incentives for development, we think of development as coming in. How many people have come to y'all before and said, hey, we found a way to encourage future growth and development and restore the natural system at the same time? That's what we're telling people in the watershed, is that if we work together the right way and create the right partnerships, we have the opportunity to do that in this watershed that is more than likely very much different than what we've done in the past. We hope that y'all would consider including these kind of concepts in your plans and activities related to Peace River MFLs or Ridge Lakes MFLs, the RAP study. We want to encourage recharge in the for the SWUCA region. We think that by local government working with the Water Management District, we can further regional goals and meet our local goals as well too. We think we have very unique opportunities to do that because this area is so uniquely hydrologically significant. We think that one of the beginning points is to begin with the local stakeholders group to plan this, to take the plan that we've done, but also this needs to be a joint plan that we present to other communities in the watershed. We think engaging all those people at this level is very significant. And then use of tools such as Florida Forever and ecosystem management areas, things like that. There's so many tools out there. We have the benefit locally to apply each and every one of those tools to our watershed to see if it's going to work or whether it's going to not. This plan is the culmination of as many of those tools as we could find and determining whether they apply or not. So you're getting the benefit of 4 to 5 years of this local watershed initiative moving forward, and we're making recommendations that, hey, we have tools out there that we could be using for multiple benefits that maybe we're not using it as significantly as we could in the future. In summary, the City of Winter Haven and the Water Management District have had a long history of working together on a project level basis. You know, I can't even tell you how many projects we've worked on together, been multiple projects, but one of the things that we're saying is that working together on a project level isn't going to meet the needs for the future from a watershed perspective. So we know that there has to be something in addition to what we're doing today. And so this plan's created to try to fill in that gap of what we're doing today and what the expectations are in the future for the watershed. We think that restoring the natural infrastructure of the watershed meets all the goals for local government, for the Water Management District, for everybody else downstream, Charlotte Harbor, that if you use the natural infrastructure, you can't go wrong. You know, we can model the system, we can talk to all the experts we want, but if we put it back the way it belongs, more or less, that natural infrastructure will do the work for us long term. We think that's a very important concept. And maybe I'll close on this one just because it's time to wrap up, but we think that making a decision related to the future goals of water resources in this area, that the right time to make that decision is now. If we don't make that decision today, before all these changes take place in the watershed, we're going to lose these opportunities to restore this natural infrastructure. We're not going to have the same opportunities we have today and moving forward. We have a little bit of lull in the economic development activities. When that moves forward, we think we're probably going to lose a significant amount of these opportunities. The City of Winter Haven has adopted this plan. We've made a commitment to move forward in a sustainable way into the future. The Lakes Region Lakes Management Commission has adopted the plan. The 4 committees of the Charlotte Harbor National Estuary Program have adopted the plan. We've been to 2 of the committees at the Polk County level, the Water Resource Advisory Committee and the Planning Commission for the county, and they both recommended that the plan move forward to the County Commission, so we're taking steps in that direction too. But we're building a consensus among the communities in this watershed that this is the direction we need to move forward, and that local government should play a significant role in making that happen. So we wanted to bring that to you, to let you know kind of what's in the pike, what's coming down the road, and we hope that you'll provide some significant support for this effort in the future.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Brett? Mr. Sampson and Ms. Coffey?
I had a comment and a question. Mike, you know my feelings. I've studied the plan and looked at it a lot, and y'all have done a tremendous job. I know staff has just started working with you on it, and I think there's great material here for us to work with. And you know, our charge is water supply, water quality, flood control, and natural systems, and you deal with all of those in here. The city has received a request recently about 4 structures, and I don't know if the board's aware of. There are some structures between these lakes that are raised and lowered to meet the MFLs and let water get downstream. Some of it goes to Peace Creek, but we have had a contract with the Lakes Region Lakes Management, the LRLMD, to manage those, and that contract has expired. We have not received a request from them of what they want to do in the future, but it seems to me, since the storage angle and a storage point in your whole presentation is so critical, that it might be premature to consider doing anything with those structures any other way other than perhaps consider in the future that the City of Winter Haven, as an integral part of your plan, that you might work with those structures, and you can have whoever you want to manage them, but I would just suggest that you consider that the City of Winter Haven has to be the recipient and work with those structures, and you contract with whoever you want to manage it, or maybe we can do it for you, but you are the permittee under your water supply plan, and it makes more sense for the permittee to control structures that control the storage. So that's just an editorial comment on my part, but it does make sense for us for future discussion that it not be given to the county or given to anybody. The Lakes Region Lakes Management District is recreational and beautification, and our message, and our mission is totally different with the four core mission areas. So if anybody's got any question about that, I'll be glad to answer them.
Ms.
Certainly.
Cauchy, and then Mr. Cumby.
I so appreciate you being here today for your presentation. This has been a long-awaited presentation from my perspective to the board. And I had gone through the material prior to the meeting, and trying to place everything on your slides in here, I got a little confused. But one thing that was very, very loud and clear is that in order to move into the future, we have to do new things. And when I say we, it's all inclusive for all the stakeholders. So I really encourage you to pursue all of the stakeholders in your area for the buy-in there so that you really make it work. But I'd like to have clarity, and perhaps I'm looking to our staff regarding this, clarity as to what the policy implications are to us as a district as a result of this. And I don't want an answer now, but I would like a thorough analysis from the staff standpoint to come back and say, based on this plan, first of all, do you agree with it? Is there anything you take issue with? Secondly, what are the policy implications that we as a board really need to look at and determine? You know, do we need to take a different position about some things? And when I'd read through it, there were some very innovative points in here that really changed the way everybody does business, from the residential owners of collecting their water off their roof all the way through to commercial and to the relationship with the district. And you pointed out about the state and federal component as well. And even though we don't control what happens necessarily at the state and federal level, I'd still like to hear back from staff about what those implications are. Because if those two elements become stumbling blocks for this plan to be able to be manifested, then we need to know that, and the district, I think, has to embrace how we're going to sustain that relationship with those two entities as well. So I look forward to that report in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Cumby, and then Mr. Sam.
Mike, are you hoping to leave here with a check today?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, the whole idea is that government wouldn't have to write a check for a lot of this work if we kind of went through it the right way.
That's
So
the part we support.
Yeah, so I hope that comes through loud and
I
clear.
wanna be on record. No, I just want to say I appreciate you and your staff and the folks from Winter Haven, the work that you all have put into this. I guess it's been years in the making,
Yeah.
2 years now, maybe, probably even
close to
more than
5,
that.
yeah,
Well,
I
but
could say,
that I've been aware of it for a couple of years, I've been working on it. And I think the only downside to it, Jennifer, is the cost. I think that Mike and the folks over there have looked at this thing 6 ways from Sunday, and they've said, you know, if you could go back and start over again, here's how we do it, but we can't, so here's what we've got to do. But the cost is, I guess, the kicker in this, and but there's got to be ways that you take least cost approaches in segments and pieces and start and work it that way. But I appreciate what you've done. And I think that you probably won't get a check today. But, you know, I think, and there's nothing wrong with having our staff look at it, say, is there any problems with what they're trying to do here? But I'm glad we finally gotten to this point. It seemed like forever.
It is. One of the things that's important here, just to reflect on
Let
your
me
comments.
say, as far as I know, the Lake Regions, the Lake Management, they're all about storage. I mean,
Yeah.
storage is their deal.
Yeah.
So there should be some, and you, I don't need to tell you about LRLMD. You're completely, totally familiar with that outfit, I know. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, you have a comment?
Well, I was just going to mention that we see this plan as a very long-range plan that changes as we grow into the future. It's not a let's fund it today, kind of write a check kind of plan. Here's a strategy for how we move forward in the future with a flexible approach, but with goals in mind. You know, a lot of what we do today from a regulatory standpoint especially is not really goal-oriented. It's kind of like, it's just kind of keeping things the same, or just saying, well, we know it's going to get a little bit worse in the future, but maybe not quite as fast. So this kind of says, okay, you know, time out. What is it we're trying to achieve in the future? And let's set those goals in a way that restores the system. So it's a very different concept to get people's head around.
Mr. Sam?
I was going to piggyback on what both of these board members have said. And Jennifer, you're right, it is, I'm glad you point out it would require some policy decisions. We'll have to get policy approval from DEP and from other people, but the concept that's here is one that might not be as costly, Mr. Cumby, because there's a potential of storing in natural systems where, you know, if we're rehydrating wetlands, you may be storing in a natural area that's going to help the aquifer and help the storage in those natural areas, and they will improve, but it may only be a small cost to put certain structures at certain points to help contain and store in a larger natural system area. So it might be less expensive. We don't know. We're just starting out studying this, but we need some policy decisions of, you know, what can we do? We're not going to get outside of our mission or anything, but also I respect the control at the local level, and you folks are at ground zero, so we appreciate what you've done. Who was the firm on this? Was it PBS and J?
Atkins Global?
Atkins Global is now
Used to be
PBS
PBS and J, yes,
used to
sir.
be PBS.
Did a great job for us there.
Okay, Ms. Cloutier?
One last comment, and that is that this particular plan is the type of information that as a board member, I would use in trying to understand and prioritize our joint cooperative ventures. And it also is not only excellent help in this year, where we're facing this soon, but it's also helpful for the long term, so that you can kind of know what's lined up over the course of time. And by looking at all of our district in these kind of planning perspective, that's makes our job as board members so much easier to be able to make decisions of these tough financial times.
Thank you very much, Mr. Britt.
Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much. I appreciate the time.
Thanks.
All right, next item is Lake Eva Water Quality Improvement Project. Mr. Keith Clausen. After this item, we're going to break for lunch according to the